So what's your name?
Brandon White.
How's your day today?
It's a pretty good day.
How are you?
Fair enough. I won't complain.
We'll just get straight into the questions. Can you tell me a little bit about your childhood?
Man, my childhood, I was raised in a house with 10 other siblings.
Yeah.
My mother lost custody of her children along with my auntie due to the drug epidemic in the early 80s. So my grandmother raised us all. And looking back, it was pretty chaotic, but still learned a hell of a lot. So just looking back at it, it's there was a lot of lessons. There was a hell of a lot of lessons that I had to learn early. So I guess I would say I had a pretty good childhood.
What were your dreams as a child?
As a child,
What do you want to be?
I mean, it's funny because when they ask you what do you want to be when you grow up,
Yeah.
the only thing I could actually think that I wanted to be when I grew up was a hitman, an actual assassin. So, and then it wasn't until later on when I became like a teenager I started to realize, I don't really want to hurt people. You know what I mean? So, I guess you could say when I was a kid, I just wanted to be straightforward, I guess. I don't know. I didn't really have this is what I want to do or that's what I want to do. It was more of I understand who I am. And it was just more like people telling me I wasn't what I thought I was.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what I wanted to be when I was a kid.
Besides a hitman.
Exactly. Well, I just thought it was cool, like I be able to, kill bad people and then get paid for it. That was pretty cool.
Can you tell me about your relationship with your dad, if there was one, and how that felt?
Yeah, I never knew my father. Never.
And you still don't know him to this day?
To this day. I grew up thinking one person was my father. Then later on, in my early 20s, I was basically told that my sibling's father was my father, but I still had never had a confirmation of that. So it wasn't, there was an absentee of a father in my life.
Have you ever met your father?
No. The person I thought was my father, I had a conversation with him when I was a kid. He said he would come pick me up, and he never came. So I just left it at that.
How did that lack of a relationship with your dad, lack of knowing your dad, how did that feel as a kid?
Pretty empty. It just felt like, why me, or what is it about me that, makes somebody not want to be there? So kind of I guess an unwanting feeling. But then later on I realized that, maybe he had his own life that he was dealing with or whatever, so it actually just helped me become more mature and question exactly where I was in life.
What about your relationship with your mom?
My mother passed when I was 10 years old from a heroin overdose. I was actually born with heroin in my system, and I was handed to my grandmother. So my grandmother raised me, and my mother passed away when I was 10. So that was that.
How did not having a mom feel around?
Technically, my grandmother did the best, so I can't really say I didn't have a mother, but my biological mother wasn't there. So it just it was like there was an empty feeling I had, but at the same time, I still respected the fact that my grandmother was doing everything she could to provide for me and my family.
So how's your relationship with your grandma?
She actually passed away about 7 years ago on my birthday.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty rock solid relationship. I mean, she did her best to school me when it came to just life experiences and just everything. I mean, I got my ass whooped, you know, like with everything you could think of, but looking back, it really taught me to appreciate myself first of all, and not to mention everybody around me. Like my grandmother really showed me humility because she would always like feed people, you know, allow people in the house. Like she would just take care of people, and everybody always knew her as the person that would look out for them. So she taught me that at a young age. So it was really good. And I actually remember to this day, one thing she always told me, she's like, that money's burning a hole in your pocket, huh? Yeah. So that really kind of cemented my relationship when it came to finances at a young age.
Yeah. How did your relationship with her make you feel?
Pretty important, actually. I mean, it's funny because she would always have me massaging her feet and stuff. Yeah. And I would be pissed off because I was a kid, you know. I'm just like, what the fuck, you know. But looking back, it really helped me to just give a damn about others, you know, and not necessarily think about myself. So it made me feel, I'm not gonna say accepted, but it made me feel, I guess you could say, whole.
What did you learn from your parents? You know, what lessons did you get from them, whether good or bad, from someone being there or not being there, from your grandma being there? Like, what did you take from all of that?
One thing I took from it that was pretty powerful, or that is pretty powerful, is accountability. And I guess you could say I saw the other side of the coin from having, because I grew up with everybody having their parents, you know, or even if they didn't have both of their parents, they had somebody there, and then it always was just my grandmother. But I learned that everybody has their own situation that they're dealing with, and the only way you can really get through any situation is to look at the steps you're taking in your situation. Because even though, yeah, I didn't have a mother and a father, I was still learning lessons, and there was still somebody there to teach me lessons. And that's one thing I cherish to this day, is that I learned to deal with growing and adapting without my biological mother or my biological father. So then the responsibility was always laid on my shoulders. And I just always appreciated the fact that my grandma was there to whoop my ass.
Can you tell me about your first love and how that felt?
Oh, wow. I can honestly say my first love was actually art, drawing. And I mean, it felt invigorating. It felt like freedom, because my life was kind of like a little box life, you know, but then when I got the paper and the pen, I can go anywhere I wanted to go with it, you know. So I just fell in love with the fact that I could pretty much create anything I wanted to create. So, and I don't think I've ever lost that love, you know. So now I just use it in different formulas. Like now I write music and stuff instead of drawing, but it's kind of like I fell in love with the potential of my own mind, if that makes any sense.
Can you tell me about your first loss or heartbreak and how that felt?
Yeah, I was with a girl, and everything was fine as far as I knew. And one day she just broke up with me, and the next day she was with somebody else. I was like 11, and she was with somebody else, and then I felt rejected, you know. Yeah. And the first thought always comes, "What's wrong with me?" Yeah. You know. And I learned throughout the years though that it might not necessarily be something that's wrong with you. It may be them.
Yeah.
You know, so my first heartbreak actually helped me come to terms with the fact that, you know, it might not always be you that's the issue. It may be someone else, and you still have to respect the fact that they may not understand what you understand at that point. So, I mean, I can't say it devastated me and tore me down, but it actually kind of built me up a little bit to show me more character.
Who first taught you love and how?
My grandmother. She she went out of her way to make sure that, you know, we ate and we had a roof over our head always, no matter what was really going on, and no matter what was going on in her life. Like, she always put herself to the side for us. And early on, I kind of took it for granted. But once I did grow up, you know, became an early teenager, I started to make my own mistakes, and then I started to see just how much sacrifices she was making. So, I mean, it's very, very powerful.
What's love to you now? Has it always been the same? If it's changed, what is it to what you thought love was before to what you think it is now?
I'd say it hasn't changed much because I still believe love is infinite potential. I just believe now I've learned how to embrace that potential versus just being stuck on what is going on at the time. You know, because I've learned just because someone might not understand your perspective at that point doesn't necessarily mean they'll never understand it. So just knowing that potential, it keeps me grounded in understanding they may realize one day. So it helps me to stay grounded in the point I'm trying to get across. And I believe that is what love is. It's the point you're trying to get across, not necessarily the methods, because, you know, you can use the same methods and come with a different message, and that might not necessarily be showing love, you know, but you're using the same method.
Can you tell me about a good day for you? Just a general good day.
Good day. Technically, waking up every day to me is a good day. I believe every day that I get is a good day, and I have the chance to realize something I didn't realize the day before. And I also always keep in mind that every day I wake up, somebody didn't wake up. And so I have the potential to realize something I didn't realize the day before. And that's where I take that. I try not to go too far out the box when it comes to what a good day is versus a bad day. You know, I try to make every day I have a good day.
Can you tell me about a bad day and how you get through that bad day?
Yes, sir. And that's the thing. It's like, you know, waking up to a day, you don't necessarily know what the day might entail. Yet I try to keep a positive perspective on what I want to bring to that day versus trying to suck something out of that day. I try to bring something to that day that I might not have seen in the day previous. I try to be the change I want to see versus looking for something outside of me that may not be, it might not be what somebody else may call good or bad, yet I know it's I ain't gonna say a platform, but it's a mind state that I can appreciate.
Yeah.
You know, like, even if I fall down, I realize that I could have lifted my foot up a little further. You know, simple things like that.
What are 2 things, events, or people that have shaped you, good or bad? How does it feel when you reflect on them?
Oh man, okay. There was this guy, he I was in a youth group when I was coming up, and one of the persons that was a leader of the youth group, her father worked at the school I was going to.
Yeah.
And
How old were you?
I'd say about 14. I was in junior high. And I just remember I was hungry that day, really, really hungry. And I remember the day we were having pizza, and I couldn't wait till nutrition to get the pizza. We got out of the class, and then this guy, he wanted to fight me.
Yeah.
But I was hungry, so I didn't give a damn about that. So I went and got my food. I ate my food. As soon as I was finished with the food, I remembered him. So then I went looking for him, like a jerk, you know. I found him. It was just like a movie scene. I tapped him on the back of his shoulder and I socked him in the face. Bang! And then he fell. I went after him. I slipped on the ice cream and fell and hit my head. But while I was falling, I seen him hopping under the table. I got up. I don't know how long I was down, but I got up, and he was still under the table. So I went after him again, and then out of nowhere, somebody grabbed me by my neck and just lifted me up into the sky. And then I seen the sun hit me in the face, and then I heard this little still voice, and it asked me, "Look at you. What are you doing? Why are you doing this?" I honestly believe I didn't have a conscience until that day.
Yeah.
But I'm very thankful for the guy who did snatch me, and
So it was the person who snatched you and asked you that.
that's what I'm thinking. Like, he may have been the one asking me those questions, but remembering back, I heard them inside of me.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it wasn't necessarily him asking me those things, and nor did I know he knew a person I knew.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful that he snatched me up that day, because I was an animal. You know, I had a lot of fire in my heart. All I could feel was fire in my heart. But after that day, I believe that's when my conscience actually came into play. So I'm thankful for him grabbing me that day and that experience. And the other person would be the guy who picked that fight with me.
Yeah.
Because without that, I would have never realized that about myself.
What has inspired you and why?
Every breath I take inspires me. Why? Because, you know, you can't see your breath, you know, but it's there. So that shows me that there are things that we may not be seeing or we may not be focusing on that are still in effect in who we are every day. So,
What has been a humbling experience for you?
when I went to prison, it's pretty.
How long were you in prison for?
I actually went to prison twice. The longest I've been in prison was 1 year.
Yeah.
And it was humbling just because I could see others in my same situation, and I could see that I was a part of a bigger whole
Yeah.
versus, you know, you just being stuck in your own shoes and only looking at your own shoes. I could actually see that I was being hurted,
Yeah.
you know, so it was just very humbling to understand that there are so many in your same shoes. They might not be dealing with the same situations you're dealing with, but they're in your same shoes.
Yeah.
And that was a very, very humbling experience for me. It helped me to realize, or not to realize, but just to focus on others' potential versus just looking at my own.
How did that feel?
It kind of felt like a rebirth, actually. I believe it was kind of like a caterpillar going in a cocoon
Yeah.
and then coming out as the butterfly. You know, like a butterfly doesn't think about the stuff a caterpillar thinks about. You know, I mean, I don't know if they think at all, but I just know a caterpillar's not worried about what a butterfly is worried about. So it kind of felt like being, not necessarily being held, but it just felt like, or being held down, but it felt like a new awakening or a new platform to think. And I think that just comes from me looking inside myself.
Go in your mind and think. This life event can be mental, physical, or spiritual. Tell me about a time in your life that you can relate with the word war.
Funny. Actually, that is exactly who I've always identified myself as. I've always identified myself as a warrior.
Yeah.
And honestly, I believe every day we live is a war. You know, we're choosing a side every day, you know, and we're choosing to fight for something every day. So life would be a word I could associate with war that has to do with me, because it's a fight every day. I mean, you know, it's a you have to realize who you are every day. If you don't realize who you are every day, you might be stuck in who you were yesterday. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that's a good
Cool.
your answer. How do you feel going through that war every day?
Victorious. I really do. I feel victorious because I can see the growth in myself, and I can it's like every day I try to get a new appreciation for my life.
Yeah.
You know, so just being able to look back and see the growth, it just makes me feel victorious, and it kind of grounds me.
So the same thing, go in your mind and think. This life event can be mental, physical, or spiritual. Tell me about a time in your life that you can relate with the word peace.
Funny. Peace. There's one of the youth leaders that I knew. His name was Johnny. He passed away, but he would see some of the anger that I had inside of me, and he would always tell me to think about waterfalls. And nowadays, when I find myself, you know, getting to that point where I feel like my thoughts are getting the best of me, that's where I go. I start to think about waterfalls, because waterfalls are never ending, but they go where they need to go, you know. And it's almost like peace out of chaos.
Yeah.
So I guess you could say, yeah, that's about it. Actually, it's when things are getting really chaotic, I try to be peaceful as I can, you know.
And that place is waterfalls.
Yes.
Tell me about a truly difficult time in your life. The emotions that came with it and how you endured.
I just ended being homeless for 10 years. And it wasn't until 2 weeks after having my place that I realized it was actually 10 years I was dealing with that. And it felt like it would never end, you know. It felt pretty bad. And
how'd you endure during those 10 years? What was the mental self-talk to get you going every day for those 10 years that you were homeless?
just a constant reminder that my grandmother didn't do everything she did so that I could give up or blame anybody for the situation I was dealing with. And it actually just created drive. Seriously, it really helped me to stop thinking so personal about the situation. Now, the feelings of the situation, that's different, but just the situation itself, like, don't necessarily take it so personal.
Yeah.
So that's just that's a valuable lesson I got from being, I guess you could say, downtrodden.
What do you think contributed it to your life 10 years ago, taking a path to homelessness?
I was too eager. I was way too eager. I didn't think thoroughly about decisions I was making. I made decisions on the basis of this is how I feel at the moment, not necessarily this is what I want or need at the moment. So, I mean, I guess I can go into it. The mother of my daughter, she came to me like when I was coming out of prison, and she basically just wanted me to get her pregnant, and I did it. I mean, I wasn't necessarily trying to do it, but it happened. And I look back and it's like I was doing what I was doing on the basis of my feelings, not necessarily on the basis of where do I want my life to go. And I think that's what caused a lot of issues in my early life. But not to mention, it's like, you know, sometimes it takes those mistakes for you to realize who you really are. So, I mean, I can't really say it took anything away from me. It actually added to me, but it helps me to realize that I have to be more grounded in my decision making.
How did you get out of that homelessness?
Focus, changing my drive, not blaming anybody, actually trusting people, not necessarily trusting them as I trust them wholeheartedly as whoever they are, but just trusting in information I may not have known at the time.
Yeah. Tell me about a truly joyous moment in your life and how that felt.
Oh yeah, wow. I remember one Christmas I seen a gift under the tree. It was from my grandmother, but it looked like a Happy Meal.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking she got me a Happy Meal.
Yeah.
And then I opened it up and it's all four of the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
And I was ecstatic.
How old were you?
I'd say 8 or 9 maybe.
Yeah.
It was just it blew my mind. Like I don't know. I wasn't thinking about getting them, and I just didn't even know she was paying that much attention to me. So it was pretty heavy to see that she was really paying that much attention without actually letting me know she was paying that much attention to me. That, to this day, that felt pretty good. But then again, I don't know if it was because I thought it was a Happy Meal.
You've been just as happy with the Happy Meal.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know.
What keeps you up at night, and why do you think that is?
Man, oh man. Anticipation. And sometimes just, anticipation, overthinking things. Sometimes sometimes you have to let things be. You have to realize the fact that you can't change everything. And you have to come to terms with the stuff that you can change is only within yourself. So there were times where especially when I was going through all my stuff I was going through, that I couldn't go to sleep because I was so focused on the situation and not focused on my mind state. And nowadays that I'm more focused on my mind state, it's actually easier to rest because I understand that there are things that I can control and there are things that I cannot control. And yet, if I can just focus on those things that I can control, eventually those things I cannot control will pretty much fade away. And that's what I've noticed that has kept me up a hell of a lot of nights.
What keeps you going every day?
Nice question. Knowing that there is value in who I am, knowing that somebody gives a damn. You know, I mean, even sometimes it's hard for me to. I'll tell you the truth. It's hard for me to get. One of my sayings is, I don't give a fuck because I give a shit. And it's like just knowing. And another thing I say is that I want to be the change I would like to see. So knowing that I have the opportunity to be what I want to see keeps me moving and keeps me driving, honestly.
Imagine you're in the hospital today with only hours to live. What would be your regrets?
My regrets, if I were to be passing in an hour, would be not creating a platform for people that I love to express themselves. Because nowadays I've noticed when it comes to social gatherings, it's easier for people to come together today to argue. And I mean, I know it's not my total responsibility, but at least for the ones that I love, I would like to provide them a platform to be able to express themselves. And because a lot of times, we get together with our loved ones and we just don't communicate the way we should, and that's another thing about it. It's like communication. For some odd reason, we believe it has to be this long, drawn-out situation, but if somebody flicks you off, you know what they're saying. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I would say I would just regret not giving that platform to anybody I may not have given it to.
So you're gonna make it. You're alive and well. Do you feel that you can change those regrets from this point forward?
Most definitely. Most definitely. I believe that so like I said, I mean, I believe that I want to be the change I would like to see. So if I notice that someone is having a hard time expressing themselves, I'm the type of person that I'll ask them the question, just to get their mind started to thinking these things. And then, I mean, I'm not trying to dictate their thoughts, but I would appreciate that info, and just give them the opportunity to truly express themselves versus ridiculing them or ridiculing their standpoint or anything like that. Because sometimes it's like just the simple reactions we have to people could make or break their day, and I really come to the understanding that that's true power. Yeah. Is the ability to affect someone's day. Yeah. And understanding it, if you did it right or wrong, not necessarily right or wrong, but positively or negatively.
Yeah. You tell me what your dreams were as a child. What are your dreams now?
Now, my dreams are actually to just to help people build self-esteem and character. I mean, I believe that mental health is essential to a healthy life. And that's really my goal, is to uplift people mentally.
You're the author of your life, but can end any which way you write it and you decide for it to end. What's your picture perfect ending for you?
Wow. My picture perfect ending would be dang, that's a deep question. Honestly, just being content, being able to appreciate who I am, what I am, and why I am what I am. And I believe that if I can, as long as I can do that, that I can always bring a positive outlook to life situations. In a nutshell, yeah.
That's it.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.